We're very fortunate to be joined in studio today. Hold on just a minute. Dude, I just had a senior moment.
Carl Brown.
Just had to see Mr. Carl Brown. He is the director. Are you the director, CEO
CEO, yes, sir.
of
Yes, sir.
Fresh Coast Jazz, the Fresh Coast Jazz Festival? Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh man, Fresh Coast Jazz. How long we been doing Fresh Coast Jazz?
This is our 5th anniversary. So we started in 2019 with the first event, and then we had a COVID year where nobody was doing anything, so we weren't either. But we were actually hatched in 2017 at the Indianapolis Jazz Festival. It was where the idea came for us to do one.
I was going to.
in
What was the
Milwaukee.
genesis of that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the story. It's a cool story, very personal story. You know, I'm a longtime Milwaukee native, owned an ad agency in town for about 20 years, and when I started that company, I went to my parents and asked them to invest in my company, and my parents said yes and helped us out, helped me get my company started. So I wanted to do something to thank them for that, and so fast forward several years, I started a scholarship fund in my parents' names, and as a way to say thank you for investing in my dream. And shortly after we started the scholarship fund, unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And what ended up being the second last conversation I ever had with my dad was leaving me instructions for how to live my life after he passed away. And he said, "Son, I want you to always remember to think of others more highly than yourself." And so that was kind of something that stuck with me for a long time. Didn't really know what it meant. About a year to the date, almost after my dad passed away, my mother passed away. And so those words took on even more meaning. And so after a couple of years of wondering what that meant, praying about it, thinking about it, my wife and I talking a lot about it, we were sitting at the Indianapolis Jazz Festival in September of 2017 in the beautiful Madam C.J. Walker Theater, watching my guy, Kirk Whalum. And my wife leaned over and said, "This is what we should do to honor what your father told you to do. We should start a jazz festival in Milwaukee and have the proceeds go to charity." So that's how Fresh Coast Jazz was born.
Always a fan of jazz.
Yeah, man. I remember the day when I fell in love with this music. My older brother used to be a DJ, and he always had the newest records, right? And I think I was a sophomore in high school. It was a Saturday morning, and he was playing something, and I was like, "What is that?" I went to his room, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was David Sanborn's Voyeur album, and the song was "Wake Me When It's Over." After hearing that song, man, I dove into it, man. I just became a fan of the genre. Sanborn was really the first artist that I really took to, but man, I just fell in love with the genre. So I've been a fan ever since then.
He just passed away recently.
He
right?
did just pass away
A lot
a
of
couple
people
months ago.
may or may not know he was also a musical director there at Saturday Night Live.
He sure was.
You
Yeah,
know,
he
you
sure
see
was.
that guy on the saxophone.
Yep. And he was really one of the first contemporary jazz players to have that level of popularity to be
Right.
on TV like that.
Yeah.
You know, he had his own show too.
Okay.
Yeah, he had his own show for a while.
So were you a musician?
I was a singer. I will tell you a little funny story there. I grew up at St. Matthew CME Church here.
All
That's where I
right.
went to church. And I was the kid who was singing all the solos in church, but there was a young man who went to church there who was in the children's choir who unseated me as the solo singer, and that young man's name is Eric Benet. So we went to church together, and Eric went on to a singing career, and I went into advertising. So
Little Eric Jordan.
yes, sir, Eric Jordan, Eric
But
and Lisa.
his family were all singers.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
His
His
sisters?
sister Lisa, and
Right.
yeah, because I mean we all grew up together and
Okay.
we went to church together,
Okay.
and so yeah,
Yeah, my mama loved St. Matthew.
yeah,
She loved
yeah,
the preachers, but she loved that music.
yeah. It was something.
And so then being a singer, you do jazz. How it's interesting because we understand that jazz is this genre, but it's an original American art form.
Yeah, no doubt.
But in a city like Milwaukee,
Mhm.
where blues, rhythm and blues is
Mhm.
really, what do you think the appetite is for jazz?
I think it's growing. I think it needs some education, but I do think it's growing. There's a lot of people in town that only see jazz as straight ahead jazz, right? Like the stuff that, you know, the Mingus or Coltrane, right? And that's all fantastic music, but jazz is so diverse. Jazz is contemporary jazz, it's acid jazz, people like Incognito, you know, it's or Brand New Heavies. I really consider that a mix of R&B and acid jazz, really, right? It is bop, it is swing, it is, yes, straight ahead. it's so diverse. And I think people don't always understand that it doesn't matter what kind of music what your go-to is, you can find something in the jazz lane that works for you. And I tell people all the time, tell me an artist you like. I don't care what genre it is. I can find you somebody in contemporary artist that I guarantee you will love.
We had the opportunity on Friday. It's New Orleans Bo, and asking him. We always ask, "Who's your musical influences?" And he said Louis Armstrong. He is from New Orleans. A lot of people, when you think of jazz as beginning, you think of Louis Armstrong. Right?
No doubt.
And then been able to, but you talk about just how wide ranging what we call jazz is. And how, and it really probably depends on the period that you grew up in, because you're right, there was people who were just jazz purists, you know, it got to be Miles, you know, it has to be Thelonious Monk, you know what I mean? It is, and then there are other people, because even that tension that happened probably the late 70s when electronic, and you know, people like Ramsey Lewis, and who went, I had a chance, man. Can I tell this story? Back in the day, you remember Park Avenue?
I sure do.
And back in the day, this would have been 1983, I'm thinking. I was supposed to go to Pennsylvania. I missed. I said, well, you know what? Ramsey Lewis's town, just go down. One of the greatest concerts I ever saw was Ramsey Lewis. And the amazing thing about Ramsey Lewis was he talked about that even when he advanced in his career, he was still taking lessons, working on his technique. Which was, but if you ever heard anybody, oh my God,
but you know what? That's how the great ones are. I have heard so many other artists talk. We had Kirk Whalum headlining our Friday night, and I've had many artists talk to me about how they've been on a show with Kirk, and Kirk is practicing up until the time he goes on stage, wherever he is. Like, for the great ones like that, they really, it's their craft, yes, but it's their love. It's in their soul and it's in their spirit. So they put in countless hours of time to be good.
I think it's Malcolm Gladwell when he talks about these folks who he call outliers and success, and he has the 10,000 hour rule. He said that you will find people at the minimum they spent 10,000 hours investing in what it is they're doing, whether it's their music, and you see people like you would see musicians or vocalists, and they're just singing. Nobody's there because you're always working on that.
And it takes that time to be great, and that's the thing. Like, we pride ourselves on bringing really great talent to the festival, and you know, it's one thing for me, and I'm pretty critical about the talent too, but like, it's one thing for somebody to get on stage and play their instrument. It's another thing for somebody to get on stage and perform. You know, those are two totally different things, right? And we look to the performers, man, those people who care about every single note, you know, because the audience, that makes the audience's experience that much better.
So we're up on our 5th Fresh Coast Jazz Festival in the city of festivals. We really have earned our name. This city has earned, I mean, and especially just music. I mean, you just places you go, outdoor concerts and all the different things. And so this year, tell us about the lineup for this year.
We were super excited about this lineup because we've got a mix of like some of the people that everybody knows and loves, but we also have a mix of some of the people that are already stars, but they're going to carry the genre going forward. So on Friday night, we start with Nathan Mitchell and Ryan Lavalette. Ryan is one of only 4 artists in the history of Billboard to have the first 4 singles from their debut album go to #1. The only other artists to do that were George Michael, Paula Abdul, and Mariah Carey. And Ryan's debut album last year, his first 4 singles went to #1 on the Billboard Contemporary Jazz charts, right? And Ryan is playing with Nathan Mitchell, Nathan is an amazing keyboard player. Nathan spent many years as in Najee's band and playing for other people, and stepped out on his own a couple years ago, and he's been taking it by storm. He's had several hits. He's won several NAACP Image Awards, and so Nathan is the truth. Then after Nathan, we have Kim Scott. And Kim is a classically trained flautist, but she's done really, really well in the contemporary jazz genre. I think she's had #1 hits in each of the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. She's out of Birmingham, Alabama, and she puts on a great show. And then after Kim, we have my guy, Kirk Whalum. And Kirk, this is his first time coming to the Fresh Coast Jazz Festival. It's been a long time since he's been in Milwaukee. and he's coming in, and he just released a new album called Epic Cool, and it is an amazing album. But his band, man, his band is like just some powerhouse people. His music director is a guy named John Stoddard, and John is an amazing musician on his right. Like John's like superstar status in Africa, you know. And it's amazing how, you know, a lot of people don't know John here, but trust me, John is amazing. Marcus Finney, Sticks Finney, his drummer, is another one. And then Andrea Lisa plays with his band too. So that's Friday night. Saturday, we do a contest to find the best jazz act in Milwaukee, and we give them a chance to perform on that stage. So Saturday opens with a group called the Jazzmen, led by a young man who's a trumpet player, flugelhorn player. His name is Nathan Mayfield. And Jazzmen are fantastic. They had their first song hit the Billboard chart this past year, and so some radios are giving them some play. So they're going to open up. Then on after them is Andrea Lisa. Andrea is a guitarist and a singer from New Zealand by way of South Africa. She has been playing in Kirk Whalam's band for the last few years as his regular guitar player, but also Jonathan Butler. And she just released an album called Silver Lining. And I got to tell you, it is amazing, just track to track. If y'all are looking for something to listen to, check out Andrea Lisa's Silver Lining. Then after Andrea, we have father and son duo, Quentin Gerard W. and Lamech. They were the first father and son duo last year to ever, in the history of all the Billboard charts, be number one and number two on the charts at the same time. And they're from New Orleans, so they were born into this jazz thing, right? And they are both amazing. Both of them had multiple number one songs in the past year, and they're going to put on a fantastic show. And then closing it out, we have the incomparable Boney James. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. He puts on a heck of a show wherever he goes. And so we're really excited about the lineup.
You have, what is the nightcap? What happens?
Yeah, so the nightcap thing, that's a good question. So what we have found is that after the shows end at the Pabst Theater, people are still ready to have a little more fun. So at our host hotel every year, we bring in another band, and we call it the nightcap, but we'll have a live band at the Monarch Lounge at the Hilton Milwaukee City Center from 11 until 1. We have two bands. We have on Friday night, the Garrett Waite Band, which is a local act. But then on Saturday night, we have all the way from Atlanta, D. Lucas playing, you know. And so those are free to the public, and it's a great time. And people come, they have a drink, they order some food. There's always late night food available, and listen to some more jazz. And that goes from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.
This will be happening at the Pabst Theater?
Yeah, so all the shows are, well, I missed one event that I got to go back. On Thursday, August 22nd, we have an event called The Pairing. And that is an event where it's a real cool event where we pair wines with music performed live. This year, we're pairing wines with the music of Grover Washington Jr., okay? So people get a chance to try 4 wines from the Napa Valley. All of those wines are paired with different Grover Washington Jr. songs. And it'll be a lot of fun, right? So that's Thursday. That happens at the Fitzgerald, which is over on the downtown, one of those beautiful old mansions that the Pabst Theater Group renovated. Then the concerts happen at the Pabst Theater, right? The nightcap happens at the host hotel, which is a Hilton Milwaukee City Center. And then we also have an event called the Fresh Coast Cruise, which is we rent out the Harbor Lady and cruise the Harbor Lady at lunchtime on that Saturday. And with live jazz, that's going to be D. Lucas as well playing on the cruise.
It was interesting. I went to see Grover Washington Jr. at the Marcus Performing Arts Center.
Okay, yeah.
And his opening act was Pieces of a Dream.
Oh yeah,
which was also part of his band.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I just fell in love with it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was well. And we were talking out. We were outside waiting to come in, and outside we're in basically the lobby. And we were talking, and I was saying to Carl, and I was saying to Mary Ellen, well, I missed a whole lot of hip hop. Because I was into, you know, jazz. It was like when somebody put I'd hear it, but it was more background music. You know, you hear when you go into spaces. But I was really down to be able to hear people like Grover Washington Jr. and Najee.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was to be able to, and I really, there was a guy I got a chance to see down at Summerfest back in the day, Rodney Franklin.
Oh yeah.
Great
Yeah.
keyboardist.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. So be able to do that and be appreciate, and I appreciate you having the vision to be able to expose us,
Yeah.
to these various acts. And so people get a new appreciation or a better appreciation of the genre of jazz.
Yeah, that's a lot of it is for us is about education. Like we, bringing in different acts, not always the same acts. A lot of festivals make that mistake and bring in the same people year after year. But the other thing too is for us is like, with this festival, it's like we call it a party with a purpose, because we do a lot of philanthropic work with this festival. By the end of this year's festival, we will have provided 10 college scholarships to young people going on to college. We will have sent close to 100 young people to music camps. We have provided 11 grants to area schools to support their music programs. We partner with the Conservatory of Music to do an instrument drive to get instruments into the hands of young people who want to play but can't afford to play. And for the second time this year, we're doing a benefit concert for kids receiving treatment at Children's Hospital as part of the festival, right? And so there's more work. We also, just Wednesday, we delivered 100 backpacks full of school supplies to Victory Christian Academy, So there's a huge educational component to what we do. We ask the other headline artists to come into town and do an artist Q&A session, and we invite area music students and music teachers to that, right? So yes, we're happy to bring the music, but we're also extremely happy about doing the philanthropic work that we get to do.
I was smiling when you were talking about you send kids to music camp.
Yeah.
I thought about the movie American Pie. You talk about band camp,
Uh-huh.
but kids who go, but that, what is it, Tanglewood?
Yeah.
Where people go out and I think they also do classical, but they also do jazz, and be able to get that. I was going to ask a question because as you were speaking, it wondered, one of the complaints, and I don't know how legitimate it is, with the advancement in technology.
Yeah.
That they're saying, well, young people are not doing jazz. I don't think that's true.
I agree with you that that's not true. One of the scholarships we gave away this year was to a young man. His name is Lucas LeBeau. And Lucas is going to be moving in 2 weeks to Berklee College of Music. If you know Berklee, Berklee is where the stars go to school, right? And I am telling you right now, remember this young man's name, because he will put Milwaukee on the map as a jazz musician. This young man is an amazing keyboard player. And there are a lot of young people out there that love music, and that, my feeling is this, is that I hate to hear, I think too often people are quick to talk negatively about our young people. And I'm a big believer that our young people are inherently good. But it's our job as adults, it's our job as their parents and their teachers and their coaches to expose them to things that will show them opportunities beyond their current realities. And when you expose young people to things, those young people will find things that they love. Let them find what they love, because if they find what they love, then that's something they will stick with, and that's something that will keep them from off the streets doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing. But it's all about engaging them, and we got to do a better job of engaging them. That's why I love the fact that we do the music camp thing, but we also do this thing where we take young people into businesses so they can learn. We took a bunch of kids from St. Margaret Mary School over on like 80 something in Capitol into a law firm in town, and they did a mock trial, and they learned about the legal career. These are young people who wouldn't have been able to have that experience if it were not for the work we're doing. So it's all about engaging young people.
It was interesting because you talked about how you developed your first love, and how you developed that in terms of listening to something that your brother was doing.
Yeah.
When you listen to, like when you have the producers who produce these songs, rap songs, for example, they've listened to all kinds of music.
They have. Absolutely.
That range. And so when able to come in, and I just think that you're right, that there's something, especially if you're a musician, you understand what is a game recognized game.
Yep.
And that's why if you look at the Grammys and you watching, and you might have a jazz group up performing, and you see the country western guys getting down with it
Absolutely.
because they're
Absolutely.
listening to it.
Yeah, musicians are students of music, right? And so we had in one of our events previously, we had Jeff Lorber here and we had Bob James. Bob and Jeff are two of the most sampled artists in hip hop, and they're jazz artists. They are. Jeff is a fusion artist. Bob is fusion, contemporary jazz, all kinds of different things. But hip hop knows those guys, and there's tons of songs in hip hop that people don't even know. The base of those songs are jazz songs. Tons of songs like that.
My college roommate, my senior year, his dad owned a jazz club in DC.
Okay.
And so he would he played music, and so there were people I had never heard of, never experienced, because I'm from Milwaukee. It's rhythm and blues driven, right? And to be able, so there's people like George Duke.
Yeah,
I never. Then by that time, Dookie Stick came out, and he had the crossover. But people like George Duke, I had never heard of. Noel Pointer,
yes,
great violinist.
Yes,
Jean-Luc Ponty.
Jean-Luc Ponty, yes.
And that's the whole thing about the violins now. Black Strings. Who's the sisters from Milwaukee? The violinist.
Sister Strings.
Sister Strings, and then we got Black Strings.
Yeah,
I saw Black Strings. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, people are. It hasn't died.
No, not at all.
And it might be manifested, as you said. Even people are sampling it. There is a. Is it? I always pronounce it wrong, Debo. Is it De La Soul?
De La Soul, yeah.
And they start off with a Parliament thing. You think it's the Parliament song until they come in. So the respect is there for the music, man.
Yeah, you mentioned one of my favorite groups of all time. One of my favorite albums, 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul. Man, I wore that one out.
Is that right?
I wore that one out.
So again, people want to get tickets?
Yeah. So tickets, we have tickets on sale at freshcoastjazz.com or pabsttheatergroup.com, or you can go to the Pabst Theater box office and get tickets.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, thank you. We are too. It's right around the corner, so we're ready to make it do what it do.
Mr. Carl Brown, he's the CEO of Fresh Coast Jazz Festival, giving us this year's lineup. And again, Friday, August 23rd, Nathan Mitchell and Ryan Levelette, Kim Scott, Kurt Whalen, and then, of course, the nightcap at the Hilton Center. And then on Saturday, August 24th, my mom's birthday, they have the Fresh Coast Cruise. You can now, if people want tickets for that,
they can get those at the same place.
At the same place, okay. And then 5 o'clock, the hometown All-Star winners, Andrea Lisa, Lamech, Quentin Gerard, right? Boney James, and then, of course, the nightcap. Man, always good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
All right.
Man.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Community Voice. I didn't get a chance, gentlemen, to really have a formal greeting. Good morning, Debo. Good morning, Carby. What's happening, man?
Good morning, bro. Keith, how you be?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. Interesting weekend, but I got through it. Boy, more people listen to this station than I realized.
Oh, yeah.
I was yesterday. We had our Men's Day at Zion Hill, and first when I got there, Pastor Harold Turner, Trinity, he go, Keith. Oh man, I listen to you and Michelle every day. I thought, oh, okay. And then our speaker, Brother Craddock, got up and he turned around and said, the radio guy. That was Malvin CFC. There's a radio guy there. And I had more people say that they would call in, and I had to get up and kind of explain, to the folks at the service. I said, when you hear them talk about radio guy, they talk about me and how Bible study breaks out on the program. And I said, it's not my intent to come in, but that's where we go. So I really appreciate everyone who listen to us and support us. We just don't, you don't know. I know we can get immediate feedback when we go to either Facebook or we're on YouTube, but the people who are listening to us on what they call celestial radio, it's not the same visuals that you get to get a sense of where people are. So again, shout out to the folks. It's good to be out in the community and to know that people listen. And because people are listening, that always reminds me of the seriousness of what we do. I was writing up, the good Lord said so. My mom will celebrate her 90th birthday on August 24th. And so I was writing up some things, getting some letters, proclamations for her. And I talked about the time. Maybe you all don't know the story about how I got into radio, but I got into radio because my mother, who was, once my mother really retired, my mother was very community minded, and everything from showing up from events, being a member of the NAACP. And she had talked to someone, and they had talked to her about, hey, you remember when cable first came out, said you could do MATA. You remember MATA if you had what is now Spectrum? I think that was Warner Cable. You could go in and just do what they call community issue programs. And so we did a live community interest program on MATA. And we did that. I don't know how long we did it. I think we did it too long. And it was interesting to try to manage. It really was a family affair. It was my mom. It was me, my best friend. It was my sister-in-law and my wife. That was the whole production team. I don't even know what we called that program. But next thing I know, Mom said, I'm moving from MATA. Pastor Joel Kenlow, I don't know if he had just opened or had did WGLB, but they were still on what Upper King Drive, I always say Green Bay, but on the other side of Atkinson going towards Capitol, and I think 7th Street there that you do that little turn, and they used to be right there on the west side of the street. They later moved to 35th and Villard. They're currently now on, I think, like 80th and 81st and Burleigh. And so my mom went to Pastor Kenlow, was saying what her idea was. WGLB is a religious format station. And so she went, he liked the idea. And so my mom did the program. It could have been about 2 months. It was every other week. And she thought, I don't know where she got this idea, that it'd be a great idea to bring her college graduated son in. Gotta be the guy could talk about. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about. All I know was I hated going because it was 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon. And so we would go, and I did the program, and it began to expand. Added my best friend who's now deceased, Robert Crimes. He became our co-host, and for 17 years, we did that bi-weekly radio program, which was community oriented. We talked to politicians, we talked to educators, we talked to health folks. My mom really believed that information is vital for the rise of the beloved community. And so she kept saying, look, you give people the information, they figure out what they're going to do with it. And then my mom also had this thing where she said a lot of people will call in, because it was call in, similar to what we do here. And she said, where ordinary people don't get an opportunity to be on radio. And so for those people who listen, Community Talk, which was the name of the program, became the vehicle for a lot of people to be able to talk and be able to openly be part of the program. If I had a nickel, and my mom used to say this, like she would say she'd meet people in the store and they would go, oh, I listened to your program. I was going to call in. And I hear that now when people say, oh, I listened to your program. I was going to call in. Let me do this. You are encouraged. Please call in, because the diversity of opinions, I was getting ready to say there are no wrong opinions, but yeah, there are some wrong opinions, but it doesn't really matter. But hopefully this is an open forum. And then the third thing, as I was writing this up, was, if you ever notice, I don't use the term show to describe Community Voice. My mother would never let us use the term show to describe Community Talk. My mother said that there was a certain level of seriousness, even though we have fun, but there's a certain level of gravity that you should bring to this type of a situation. And so she called it a program. And so you will hear me refer to what we do here on Community Voice as a program. And that was just only because of and I'm getting that, am I being repetitive now? Only because of the programming I got from her in terms of what we do and the importance of what we do. So I just wanted to, I don't know how I got down that little rabbit hole, but I'm back up now. And so again, man, I want to say this. This is probably, these Olympic Games have probably been one of the best Olympic Games I can remember. I mean, many people watched, and it was interesting because one of the things we didn't get to was how, and someone had even, I think, either text me or put it on Facebook, this idea of how we can rally around certain things as it happens. And 9/11 is a great example where Americans came together as Americans. It didn't take long for us to kind of get back into our silos, but that at that moment everyone felt like Americans. And you had, I don't know, I can't speak, phone lines open 414-444-5250. I can't speak for you, but I have a tendency to, when I'm watching these things, because primarily we're just getting the focus is on American athletes, right? If you're looking at Peacock, it's American athletes. And I have a tendency to cheer for the American athletes. Now, I think you should. But yeah, I mean, and I think we can identify with it in terms of the maybe because in a way we know we're still Americans, and even if you're descendants of enslaved Africans, we're still Americans. And so you take a certain pride in what American performances are. You root for the Americans, because you can ask both the American men and women's basketball team, talk about a Daniel and a den of lions. The fact that in the finals of both men's basketball and women's basketball, they had to play against the host team, right? They had to play against France. And so they got all of these folks in the arena cheering, for France. Now, I couldn't figure out why Joel Embiid was being, now in Europe, they don't boo, they whistle. So when you hear people whistling in Europe, that is a boo. So it is, when they whistle, it's disapproval. Every time Joel Embiid touched the ball, all you heard was whistles. And I couldn't figure out, well, what is the issue with Joel Embiid? At some point, either he was born in France or he spent time in France, and he decided that he would want to play with the American team. Now, that would have been a pretty strong. I mean, France is already strong. I mean, that their men's basketball team is already strong. Was Nenenwabe, who's the other guy? Rudy Gobert. So they had some folks. France is a good team, and how good that team would have been with Joel Embiid. But I couldn't figure it out until someone explained, well, the reason why they're having the reaction they're having to him is that they thought he should be playing with the French team, which gets us in our work back because there were some moments just incredible. I don't know if anybody watched the closing ceremony last night. Rhonda gave me the name of the young lady who sang "I Did It My Way" to close it. Oh my God. That was just incredible. So I've got a chance to see her. But that sister, oh man. And so France should be very proud. They really did give us a great Olympics, even though they almost killed some people doing the triathlon because they were swimming in the Seine and people were getting E. coli. Now, there was a couple of teams that had been taking these, I don't know if it's antivirals to kind of prevent them, but a lot of teams didn't. And so teams were getting sick. As a matter of fact, some of the teams started pulling their athletes out of the triathlon because of just how toxic the water was. And speaking of triathlon, let me shout out my Shiro, my wife. She completed the triathlon yesterday. It was, I had a couple of things going on in the family, and I'm always worried because I shouldn't be such a worrier, but I think about all the things that can go wrong. She can fall off the bike. She could cramp in the water in the swim. It could be a whole lot of different things. And she completed it. So yeah, she got a medal. And people don't understand. So what she did yesterday, which really makes this remarkable. She had a half-mile swim. Once she finished with the half-mile swim, you have an 11-mile bike ride. And then you have a 5K, 3 miles, a little over 3 miles walk run. All right. So you swim, you bike, you walk, run. She was able to do that. She was able to complete it. And anybody, when you're doing these things, a lot of times there are people out there really competing. They want to be number one, number two. It was like when I was talking to Tonda Thompson, she was talking about, what's his name? Q, the kid who seemed to always be winning the Harambe walk, run. And but she finished. And that meant so much for her. You don't know what it is, but then I've seen the time and effort that she put in to preparing for that and to be able to do it. Now, I can tell you she's feeling it today as she would. But, man, so shout out to my wife. Great job. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. I always joke that, hard being married to an athlete, but she was able to do it. So good job, Rhonda. Really proud of you. Been able to do that. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. Yes. Someone just they were talking about Pastor Joel Kinlow, the late Pastor Joel Kinlow, and I forgot he did own a television station. Yeah, he owned a television station too. So he's one of my heroes when we think about men and black men and how you have guys who come in and really uplift, but the business savvy that a lot of people bring to what they do, and he was really. He appreciated when my mom brought him the idea because, he thought that those issues needed to be raised in the community. And at one point, I was still working full time. And so he really wanted to give me like a slot like I have right now, where I would be doing a daily program. So I appreciated him, and he talked about, just how much he liked me. And I don't know, maybe saying that because I was just there at the station, that's what I'm supposed to say. But so appreciate them. So to his family who's continuing the legacy, I say it all the time. You go to many cities bigger than Milwaukee, and if they have one Black-owned radio station, I'm talking about people with bigger Black populations, you're saying something. Milwaukee has 2 Black-owned and operated radio stations, right? And at one point, and I think if you, depending on how you view WMCS, we had 3. So when people are talking about Milwaukee and, we don't do anything in Milwaukee and wrong. And so appreciate that. Appreciate what you have. Hopefully you appreciate WNOV and what it means to the city. We pride ourselves as being a Black-owned, Black radio station. There are other radio outlets who are doing urban format, but they're white-owned, they're white-operated. We are Black-owned. And so I think that means a lot. We should take an enormous amount of pride in the fact that people care enough about their community that in this form of media that we have a presence. And from what we get when we're out in the community, we know people listen to us, and so we appreciate that. We thank people for that because they don't really have to listen to us. Here's the reality. There are so many choices out there, right? There are so many choices out there that people could actually be listening to, and you all are just gracious enough to listen to us, and in many instances get involved All right, so I need to do a promo on this?
Yes.
All right. The 9th Annual Community Resource Fair, WNOV, The Voice's 9th Annual Community Resource Fair will be Saturday, August 17th at the Clinton Rose Senior Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have a proud number. We have a number of people that we're proud of who are sponsoring us. Should I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
AARP, U.S. Bank, Lakeview Health, the New Pitts Mortuary, Employ Milwaukee, Center for Independence, Housing Resources, Landmark Credit Union, the Medical College of Wisconsin Cancer Center, Progressive Community Health Center, Wisconsin Black Chamber of Commerce, Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services, Child Support Services. Wow.
That's your department.
Yeah, that's my department. The Greater Milwaukee Urban League, the City of Milwaukee Health Department, Substance Abuse, the Northside Milwaukee Health Center, Family Medicine Residency Program, and then the Autism Society of Southwestern Wisconsin, Wisdom, Micah, and Free. So
now we when you mention that 9th annual, we have co-sponsors that are actual naming sponsors for us as well, with the City of Milwaukee Health Department, along with the Milwaukee County. I believe it's just Milwaukee County. It could be Office of Equity, but I believe it's just Milwaukee
Health
County.
and Human Services.
Okay. So yeah, again, now those are our co-sponsors in the sense of naming rights and so forth and so on. So those are our major double headers. Keith, they don't mention it there, but we talked about it a little bit this morning. I don't know if you recall. I think you spoke about this last year when we were at the resource fair. Remember how they brought you up, and then when they brought Michelle up, they played her theme music, and you were just like, "Oh, she gets her theme music and everything." So anyway, we'll do as we did on last year. We will try to have your theme music available for you.
Had to bring my own theme music.
Bring your theme
and
music.
bring my own theme music,
Right.
man.
But we'll have giveaways, stuff like that. There's food, lots of great things that'll be happening throughout the day. We'll break away and do some broadcasting live type stuff. But it's just an exciting day for us here. It's something that we look forward to, our annual resource fair. So again, it's our opportunity to just bring together all of the resources and outlets and so forth that sometimes we don't think about. I mean, people would wonder, why would you say the new pitch mortuary. Well, what about pre-planning and estate planning and things of that nature that people don't think about? Their resources, their outlets. So it's again why you would have a new pitch mortuary, and all of these agencies in their own right bring something to the table that folks can benefit from.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And then again, you actually now with YouTube and Facebook, people kind of know what Michelle and I look like. But that still doesn't deter them from wanting to come up and introduce themselves and let them know that they listen. And so you get a chance to meet us and the whole thing. Yeah, I was complaining about not having any theme music. Michelle gets up. It was just like, wow.
Yeah, man. Her music instantly came on.
Right.
Yeah, you were a big baby that day. I
remember. Oh man, talk about what would you call them, divas?
Yeah.
What Kia used to say, "Here come diva." You know, it's like, oh, it don't mean anything to me until you don't play my theme music. Yeah, and now I'm all in my feelings, and people walking up speaking to me. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you, man. Come on, man. We got an issue over here.
Right. You know? So, main stage.
Big stage. Oh man, it was just like I said. I felt this year at the Juneteenth parade, you know, I was actually getting recognition because last year, is that right? Was that last year I rode with Homer? It had been last year, or was I with Keon? Whoever I was riding with, it didn't matter. If it was Homer Blow. Here we go, Homer Blow. And who's the other dude? Yeah, right. And then one year we were here and we were going, and that's when Andrew was providing us the drivers.
Right.
And so the brother that was driving my car, light-skinned brother,
probably Robbie.
They were going, you DJ the Protege? You DJ the Protege? Nobody asked who I was. That's just oh my God. So ride with Keon, ride with Homer. I'm just the other guy, right? I'm just the other guy. But this year, people came up and said, do you work for WNOV? I got the polo on.
Right.
No, I bought this up at the gift shop. Yeah, I work for WNOV. I'm proud to say that I work for WNOV.
Keith, you've been out a lot more. I will say, you know, I recall seeing you at Juneteenth Day. I saw you at the Garfield Days. So your face is starting to.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not.
You know, because truth be told, you got the face that only a mother could love.
Yeah, and it's built for radio.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when I get but I think it is really interesting because what I have discovered is, and you all may or may not believe this, but as we were talking to Carl Brown, and we were talking about how when you're a musician, for example, you're a musician, you're constantly working on your craft. I tried to get better at doing this. Like I told the story, somebody said, yeah, I think it was Meech. Yeah. When you first got here, you was awful. I thought, man, so you got to put the work in to be able to do it. Now, me and Michelle will tell you, Debo will tell you, it ain't as easy as it looks.
Yeah, tell me about
it. It is not as easy as it looks to be able to, one, to have an engaging program, two, to engage the audience, to always come up with something that people will take an interest in. Oh man, that puts some work. You put some work in terms of what that looks like, the prep for that. And we have, and I know Michelle could tell you this too, we've come in prepared to talk about something, spent up all night, working on the research, pulling up all the data, and then we start talking about church shoes.
And that's the show.
It's done now. You've done people blowing up. Yeah. You know, oh man, we're going to talk about world peace.
Not today, you're not.
Not today. But man, and let me say this. Some of the smartest people I've ever encountered, over these airways. And let's not get it twisted. Educated ain't smart. Right? I'm talking about people who may or may not have gone to the most august institutions of higher learning in the country, but their insights, their wisdom, their analytical skills, I mean, it's all there. That's what makes it go.
When you speak to that, there's a young lady and I miss that she doesn't call like she used to. She called all of the stations down through the years, but Miss Rose doesn't call as much as she used to.
She called. You're right. She called
But you're talking
a
about
couple
somebody
weeks ago.
that knows their stuff.
Mama Rose.
Yeah.
Who's passed, but yeah, Mama Rose.
There was another guy that he used to be a bus driver. I think he must have passed away. He used to talk about the city of Milwaukee running around sneaking to your house at night, giving you them sleeping tickets.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what he called them, parking tickets. He said,
sleeping tickets.
It's illegal. The city shouldn't be able to give you a ticket for parking on the public streets, and you pay taxes and all of this stuff. So they catch you while you sleep. They give you a ticket. Sneaking around in wee hours of the morning, giving out sleeping tickets.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name though. He used to call 1290 all the time.
Well, I think
Sam Johnson was another one.
Really, he was calling.
Yeah.
I get a chance. I don't know. Now I don't know if he was at the last brainstorming I was at.
Yeah, Sam Johnson was regular with Eric Vaughn in any case.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact that you sit here with Okay. All right. We sit here with different folks. So you got a caller?
Let's take it.
Okay. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry. All right, good morning. How y'all doing?
Good. What's happening?
Hey, I just Debo was talking about Tim the bus driver.
Tim, that was him.
You saw we talking about them sleeping tickets. You shouldn't have to get a parking permit and all that. But yeah, y'all done have some classic people call into the station over the years. I just want to give you that man name.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Tim, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'll tell you somebody, even Christopher, as young as he may appear to be, he's a legend, man. He's been calling forever, man. He and Eric used to go back and forth as well.
Yeah, well, someone mentioned him yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At church?
Yeah, they said that Muslim brother.
He gonna figure out a way to get the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in some kind of way.
Someone just texted me and asked a question. No, she swam in a lake. It wasn't a pool. She swam in a lake.
Got another call, Keith.
All right, caller, welcome to the program.
Yeah, welcome. Besides Mama Rose, Miss Rose called all the time, but she said y'all would never let her through. But she instrumental. She knows a lot about the city of Milwaukee. I mean, she's got it down pat.
Oh yeah, we talked about Miss Rose. We talked about Miss Rose.
Right.
Miss Rose, yeah.
It'd be nice to bring her on the show to kind of have her talk about some of the things around Milwaukee. When you just got some extra time on your hands. But she calls another station quite a bit. If she comes to their events, they have once a month.
Okay.
All right, Miss Kathy. Thank you so much.
Okay. Sure. Y'all have a good day.
All right. Yeah. Calling the other station. What other station?
Ain't no other station.
Ain't no other station. What other station she calling? You were calling this station. It's interesting. And that's that morning. I don't get a chance to listen to my colleagues at other radio stations. I have, you get a chance to encounter them in the community, and but it's rare that I get a chance to actually listen to them, and obviously the people who are also in this time slot being able to listen to them. I do understand people sometimes go back and forth depending on what we're talking about. If you talk about something that's not very interesting, then people will do this. Let me do this. Someone just texted me. Milwaukee County will be hosting budget town hall meeting presentations as we plan for the 2025 county budget. This means that residents can RSVP to attend either in person or a virtual session and share their thoughts in a public setting. RSVPing for the budget town hall helps us identify what topics are most important to our community and allow you to submit a question ahead of time. I hope to see you there. This is from my boss. That's what I need to read it. Washington Park's Senior Center. He didn't give me a date. What's the date on this? I should have pulled it up. I'll give you the date, but the presentation that's coming up is at Washington Park Senior Center, 4420 West Felice Street. I'll give you the actual date when I come back from break. But again, and I have gone out to these budget meetings. And first of all, let me shout out County Executive Dave Crowley, because he does bring in people who will actually break out what that budget looks like, what the fiscal implications are, the whole thing. So you get a chance to see what it is that they're doing with your tax dollars. So again, after the break, I'll bring back the time for the Washington Park. Okay, all right. So I don't know. Someone said they was trying to call and it's just hanging up on them. So
Here?
yeah,
No. We sitting right here.
okay. Here we go.
Remember Dap Wilson?
Yeah.
Somebody just called and spoke about Dap Wilson. He used to call quite a bit as well.
Okay. Caller, welcome to the program.
Yeah, Keith, that's me.
Okay.
When I call, it just like rings 30 times and then it hangs up. I call back to back.
Okay.
It wasn't ringing on
I
our
don't
end.
think I don't think it was you. I think sometimes when you get a new host, you just got to get used to them. So when when you get used to them, then I think that makes the big difference.
Oh,
I remember when
going back to what Meach said?
Yeah, because I know when Eric first came on, and I can't remember the guy that he replaced. I think he passed.
Keith Murphy.
Keith Murphy.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't replace Keith, did he?
Keith came in after Eric.
After Eric. Yeah. Eric was brought here.
Well, who was the
before
guy
that
that Eric replaced?
Nobody.
Who was the guy that Eric?
Nobody.
Oh yeah, it was
They
the guy on
that show
1290.
together, him and KB, I think it was. Him and the lady, I can't remember. Was it KB?
I can't remember, but yeah, Eric did replace him. Eric did come in after somebody.
When he left to come back from Arizona?
No, when Eric first came to Milwaukee.
No,
there was somebody.
He was recruited to come in to do that program.
Yeah,
I met him when he first got here. Yep.
They brought him in particularly for that show.
Keith, you said you're not a betting man. I will bet you for us long time callers that have been calling forever, Eric came in after somebody. Because when Eric first came, he was making these comments about Milwaukee, and me and Brenda was like, "Who is this dude? He's not from here. He don't know our city like that."
Right.
And so
he's
when
from
I first
DC.
started listening, Eric, I was the same way. Like, remember when I told you when you first came on, I would listen to you until The View came on?
Mm-hmm.
And now I will listen to you all the way through. Now I watch The View after you go off. And I think it's just now I think it's just getting used. I think it's just getting used to somebody.
Oh yeah, I think it's I used to particularly listen on Tuesdays because I had to go out to the House of Correction and I had to be there at 9. And I'm thinking here when I was listening on WNOV, that would have been Sherwin. Yeah. And so I timed it based on that. And then even when Eric was on, I could remember there was a guy, Al, who would call. Not the Al that currently calls. There was another Al that would call, and he would call at about 7:45 because I'm pulling into the parking structure, and it would be Al. So there were people out there that you knew. But when Eric first came to Milwaukee, he was brought here.
Right.
He was, and I met him his first day here. Just so happens, Siboney's, and I'm walking in the Siboney's, and he's with Mike Bird. And Mike Bird, who was then, I think it was LUM, then had switched over to MCS, and he introduced him. So I was like one of the first people Eric met when he got to Milwaukee. And he's, because Bird go, "Oh man, Keith went to school in Maryland. You know, folks in DC." And then me and Eric just hit it off. And a quick Eric Vaughn, so I know I got guests coming in.
Yeah.
Quick Eric Vaughn story. When I worked for the Department of Health and Human Services, I worked at our location on 9th and Mitchell, and we had a Black History Month program, and so we wanted to do a panel discussion. So we invited Eric Vaughn, Danae Gordon, and the other person didn't show up because it was like a snowstorm. But Eric and Danae got there, and so I was the moderator. So after it, I told this story with Eric. After we did this, Eric said to me, he said, "You know, Keith, you could do this." I said, "Man, I got a real job."
Yeah, I know you tell that
and
story.
look at what he's subsequently doing these days.
I remember telling that story when he had passed and we doing tributes, and I think Debo was bad and Homer, they looking at me. So what we doing?
Right.
You know,
Right.
So
people, how long you been doing this?
Me or Debo?
George?
Did he hear me? Did he hear me?
What was the question, George?
I said, how long you been doing this?
Oh man, I started at MSOE, man. So that takes you way back with Chris Levy and Johnny P and Smoking Pachich, and man, yeah, long time, over 28 years.
Wow. Hey, I couldn't do it. You know, when I listen to you guys, Keith, I bet you it ain't easy doing what you're doing. I couldn't I mean, to keep talking for 2 or 3 hours and keep people entertained and keep them engaged.
Well, you know,
Man.
it helps when you get good callers like yourself, George. You're always very knowledgeable. You're opinionated, which you're supposed to be. I remember when I first kind of started dealing with the talk side of it, I was just like, well, Eric, what do you do when the person make a good point? He says you still stand your ground unless they can sway you. And typically you shouldn't be able to be swayed because your opinion is your opinion. And you should be solid on that before you put it out there.
Really? So I don't understand that, because you should be able to be swayed. And
not when you do your homework and you investigate it and you now get it. If you give me a different angle or a different approach that I maybe could consider, but to just be all over the board because you make a point, I mean, I gotta know where I stand on that before I even put it on the table. I mean, typically you don't give your opinion until you got your opinion.
But you know, when you say that, Devo, you know what that sounds like?
What's
that? We can't, these Republicans, and we see what's going on, like some of our famous black callers, and I said I'm gonna stop using their name, where we get some of our Republican black callers that on there, and we know this nonsense that these guys are falling behind, and we can't sway them, then that's something wrong with that. Yeah, they can stand on their ground, but foolishness is foolishness.
This is true.
And the only other thing I just wanted to say,
go right ahead, George.
I don't know if you guys saw the ceremony, the ceremony part when the basketball players got their medals, and they were comparing them to is it Serbia? What's the other team's name that got third place?
No, she's gonna come on. Which men or women?
The men's.
Who finished? Serbia ended up finishing third, right?
Serbia, okay. And you see how they all had their hands across their heart, and they were singing the songs and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And they said how the American players that they were looking around had their hands in their pockets. They just ridiculed the black players. And I'm saying, well, our experience in this country is not different than their experience in their country. And yeah, we're proud Americans, but it's hard to be a proud American when you don't get treated like an American that has every right as everybody else. And you should have just seen the comments that I know they had to be all white people that were just making these vile comments about how they black and they shouldn't this and all this kind of stuff. It just makes me mad sometimes with how this country treats us sometimes, you know. I don't know if you saw that. I was going to ask your opinion.
Yeah, but did you see Brittany Griner? Brittany Griner was crying when they played the national anthem. And at first you kind of going like, because everybody, Diana Taurasi, they were all just, she was crying. And then there was this moment where, because she had been critical of America. As a matter of fact, they said she walked out in 2020 on a national anthem. But her experience changed when she realized that she might not even been playing in these games. And it was the American government that got her out of Russia. So that was what this has been one of the best Olympics I have seen. And I've seen a lot of them. Yeah, I mean the competition. I mean the sister who sang My Way. Was that incredible?
Who, her?
That's your song? Yeah, I'm talking to one of our guests. No, that was.
I'm talking about her because I didn't get a chance to see her.
Yeah, she's at the closing ceremony. Well, Celine Dion when she sang,
and then
female
Prince.
Yeah, and then the woman who sang the French national anthem, who was also of African descent. She was incredible. So it was. Let me do this, Georgia. I get to my guest.
All right, man. Thanks for taking my call.
All right.
Y'all be blessed.
As you hear, it is the second Monday, right? And so we normally on Mondays have the good folks in from the NAACP. I'm going to ask these beautiful women to introduce themselves. I need you to pull up to the mic there a little bit. Introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Mr. Keith Parris.
I got you already. No H in my last name. I love Judge Parrish. I love Sheila, but there's no H. All right. Introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. Gloria Pitchford Nicholas, and I serve as chairperson for the NAACP Milwaukee Freedom Fund Dinner Committee.
Good morning. My name is Ella Dunbar, and I'm vice chair of the Freedom Fund dinner at the NAACP Milwaukee branch.
It looked like you were reading your name. That's what it looked like. Gloria, Ella, good to see. Pictures, that's the pictures from Greater Galilee pictures.
Yes, sir.
Oh, love that family. I love that family. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Small world.
Pitchfords are all related.
Yeah, they are. Oh man, I love that family.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Coyle?
Coyle,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All first cousins.
All first cousins.
Mhm.
So tell us about the Freedom Fund dinner.
Okay, I'd love to. Our Freedom Fund dinner is actually the only fundraiser that we have for the Milwaukee branch of the NAACP. It is our signature event, and the NAACP Milwaukee branch is made up of all volunteers. We only have one part-time paid staff, so all of those that you see that are working diligently are all unpaid staff, but believe in the mission of the NAACP that was founded in 1909. And the mission of the NAACP is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality for people of color. The NAACP is committed to achieving the objectives through nonviolence and relies upon the press, the petition, the ballot, let's vote, and the courts. We are particularly excited because there were a group of Milwaukeeans in 1924 that started the Milwaukee branch. So this year at the dinner, we're going to celebrate 100 years of the NAACP Milwaukee branch serving the Milwaukee community.
Ella?
Thank you, Keith, and thanks for having us.
Mhm.
The funds generated by the Freedom Fund fundraiser allow for furthering of the mission of the National Association for the Advancement for Colored People, the NAACP, to ensure the political, educational, and social economic equality of rights of all persons, and to eliminate racial hatred and racial discrimination. The funds generated from this year's yearly signature event will allow the NAACP Milwaukee branch to continue to have an office where hundreds of people come to file complaints, seek advice, seek community resources, and get direction. Please keep in mind that volunteers assist people from our community. There is only one paid part-time staff, the administrative assistants, and everyone else are volunteers.
When you so when you're raising funds, is that for your general operating expenses in terms of the office?
Yes, it is. As we have noted, there aren't all of those that are participating are volunteers, and there's only one part-time staff. So the dollars that are collected do go to the operating funds, but then it also goes to support various initiatives that are extremely important. One of those initiatives is Get Out the Vote. The NAACP Milwaukee branch is nonpartisan. However, we know the importance of the vote, and dollars are dedicated so that we can get that message out to our community to vote. Also, we have partnerships with other agencies. Another example is the fight against COVID, getting the information out to our community during the time that COVID was on the rise and when COVID was peaking. The 2024 theme for the NAACP is All In, and our volunteers are all in to correct the injustices plaguing our community. Also, I'd like to just give one or two or even three shout outs to an awesome committee. Ella and I have the opportunity to chair and the committee. However, we have wonderful volunteers that work with us to make sure that our Freedom Fund dinner is successful.
I'm going to ask this question. You said something, and I don't think people kind of understand when you're nonpartisan, but that does not mean that you're not political. And what I mean by that is getting people to vote, voter registration, making sure people have access to the ballot. Those are political things that are nonpartisan, right?
Absolutely.
And so when people hear that, they're going, well, you don't endorse candidates, right? But you do organize around issues.
And that is critical, that people understand the issues, and then also the stance of different politicians that's running for office. What are their stances on the different issues, and most importantly, the issues that affect our community? And we've got to be cognitive of that. And really, we are nonpartisan, but it certainly doesn't mean that we do not provide great information so that people can make good decisions about utilizing that vote.
Because those laws, those policies are driven by votes.
They are definitely driven by votes. And our branch president, Clarence P. Nicholas, often speaks of the 5 essentials for a healthy community, as stated by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And those 5 essentials are education, employment, housing, healthcare, and social justice. And they are needed today as much as they were during Dr. King's reign. And the NAACP, in its 100-year journey here in Milwaukee, definitely has tried to correct some of those wrongs. And these ills still persist in our community today. And Dr. King had said, if any one of those 5 are missing, you do not have a healthy community. And we do not have a healthy community. And that's why it's so important that we know the facts and how people stand on the issues that impact our community, so that we can have a healthy community, and that for the next 100 years, we will not be addressing these same issues.
You know, it's fascinating. I thought about, again, political movement. I was a young man here when we were, I was a boy, when we were doing the open housing marches.
Absolutely.
Go back and look at some of those pictures, and what you will see is a group of young men with NAACP Youth Council.
Yes.
And out of that came the Commandos.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, again, you're being political, and people need to understand that political is this whole art of, well, all human behavior is political, right? So you're trying to get these changes. So the NAACP, especially in Milwaukee, and that's something I said earlier, you know, we sit up and act like, oh, it's the worst city in the world. No. For 200 straight days, people tried to get across that viaduct.
Yes.
And a lot of that was because of Val Phillips and the NAACP, Father Grappi, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ella,
And-
I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to add one other. And Val Phillips was an integral part of the NAACP Milwaukee branch. In fact, she was 3rd vice president. So the NAACP has played a significant role in making sure that the open housing marches were successful as well.
Ella, give us let's try to fill in what that Freedom Fund dinner will look like.
Absolutely. Thank you. The Freedom Fund dinner for the Milwaukee branch of the NAACP will be held on Friday, October 18th. We're going to begin the timeline with a social time, the reception. It begins at 5:00 p.m. and it ends at 6:30. And at 6:30, we will start our program. We will have musical entertainment for the reception from a local fabulous band. The Eddie Butts Band will perform
Eddie
during
Butts.
the reception.
Look at you.
We are very excited to have the Eddie Butts Band. We're also working on an exhibit to display the NAACP Milwaukee branch over the years. You mentioned some of the highlights that took place, and we are looking to focus on areas such as the Youth Council, and there are many other areas to focus on. The program, which starts at 6:30 p.m., will have musical entertainment provided by a group of talented students from the Milwaukee High School of the Arts, a Milwaukee public school. Their student jazz ensemble will provide music during the program. Following that, we will have a delicious dinner. We will have a fabulous keynote speaker, a remarkable keynote speaker who we're in the process of confirming, and we'll announce very soon.
Yay.
So we have lots of supporters who make this event happen. A big thank you to Congresswoman Gwen Moore for her continued support each year. Past keynote speakers we have had, last year we had Dr. Hassan Jeffries, who we had last year from the Ohio State University. He's a history professor with an emphasis on the civil rights era, and he's an author. Other past speakers include Judge Greg Mathis, Dr. Joy DeGruy, who has done extensive work on post-traumatic slave syndrome, Michelle Alexander, known for her book, The New Jim Crow, about mass incarceration of African Americans, and Jane Elliott, known for her Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes exercise. So we're excited to
Keith Ellison.
Yes.
Yeah, Keith Ellison. Yeah.
yes,
Attorney General.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
Attorney General from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was fabulous as well.
Yeah. Oh, all your speakers are great in terms of who you are and be able to do it. Let me do this. You're listening to Community Voice, and again, we're joined in studio by the good folks from the Milwaukee branch of the NAACP. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
the second Monday of the month. And so we have this great opportunity to have conversations with the Milwaukee branch of the NAACP. We're just going to finish up with the Freedom Fund dinner and information that people is pertinent, where, how they can get tickets.
Well, thank you so very, very much, Mr. Keith. It has been a pleasure to be here with you today. One of the things that we really want to emphasize about the NAACP Milwaukee Branch Freedom Fund dinner, it really allows us to keep our doors open and to continue to serve the Milwaukee community. And we are extremely, extremely excited about celebrating the 100th year, and we invite everyone to please attend the dinner. We have done great work over the 100 years and looking forward to continuing the work of the NAACP. You can purchase tickets, and we will turn it over to Miss Ella to share how and where the dinner is going to be held.
Thank you, Gloria. The NAACP Milwaukee Branch Freedom Fund dinner will again take place on Friday, October 18th. It will be held at the Baird Center, formerly the Wisconsin Center District, at 400 West Wisconsin Avenue. The reception starts at 5 o'clock and the dinner and program start at 6:30. Tickets. How can you purchase tickets? We have 3 options for you. You can go online at the NAACP Milwaukee branch at the website naacpmke.org. That's naacpmke.org. And when you're online, you can purchase using PayPal. You can purchase tickets by credit card by calling our branch office at 414-562-1000 during office hours, Tuesday through Thursday, 9 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. And the third option is coming in person to our branch office during office hours at 2342 North Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Suite 202, during office hours Tuesday through Thursday at 9 o'clock a.m. until 4:30 p.m. And individual tickets are $125. Thank you.
Mr. Keith, thank you again for having the NAACP Milwaukee Branch Freedom Fund Dinner Committee. And on behalf of Ella and myself, we want to also thank each of our members for their dedication to making the dinner a success. But thank you so very much, and we look forward to you attending as well.
You know, here's a Freedom Fund dinner story for you. A few years ago, maybe about 7 years ago now, 6 years ago, I was at the Freedom Fund dinner, and my wife said, Keith, Pastor Williamson is looking for you. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll catch up with him. I just thought he wanted to say hi. So then I went off, came back. She go, Keith, Pastor Williamson wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was from that moment, he asked me what I was doing, because at the point I wasn't at Metropolitan. He asked me what I was doing. Oh, I'm not doing just visiting churches. And he invited me to come to Zion Hill. So you can thank the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner for Keith Parris being at Zion Hill Church. So I want to thank you for that. But no, I appreciate that. I want to say real quick before we bring in Ms. Pruitt, I think it's significant that the NAACP's office is on Martin Luther King Drive. I think that is, people might miss that. I know Dr. King was a lifelong member of the NAACP, but just that, and then, you know, you could move over on Bell Phillips
Absolutely.
or you can move down to Finlayson.
It's in the center.
Yeah, it was just right there. But no, I appreciate that. I thank you for that, because I think the Dr. King coined the term the beloved community.
Mhm.
You all talk about the beloved community, and so to be right there in the heart of the beloved community. And by the way,
Absolutely.
the greatest Martin Luther King Drive Boulevard street in the country, right? So let's do this. And I didn't even know that they had this committee there. Miss Cleo Pruitt, she's chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee there for the NAACP. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
How did you become chair of the Veterans
Of-
Committee?
Or the
ACP?
NAACP.
Yeah, I would think, and here we go about stereotypes. I would have thought it'd be a man, right?
Uh-huh.
Are you a veteran?
No, I'm not. I'm
Okay.
a civilian.
You're a civilian. okay.
And I've been a lifelong advocate because my dad, as a 17-year-old, entered the Marines as among the first blacks
Black, yeah.
in World War II, and exited as a teenager at 19
Is that right?
from the South Pacific.
Okay.
But he raised in me the concern and conviction about the lives and contributions of predominantly black men, but also women, to work for our full citizenship in this country. Veterans became a large part, the first civil rights leaders. You
Yes.
think about Medgar Evers and all. So I'm here because I hold veterans in my heart, and I'm a leader of the committee. I recruit members. I bring to the executive committee ideas, and we share information about the kind of inroads we've made in these communities. So it's an ongoing process of collaboration within cross committees. There are numerous. Are there 20 committees or 15?
Yes.
Yeah, we have health and education and so many committees and so many bright and engaged and also convicted and passionate folks. So we're starting to do, as we're growing younger, we're starting to interconnect more inter-committees because the issues that are so important to veterans are important to Black people and people of color. I mean, housing, homelessness is the biggest concern we have for veterans. And then the mental health and suicide. So these are serious concerns, and we think that civilians need to know more, and our membership, we're educating our membership and beyond, but we're concerned about veterans and their families and getting the quality of life that we'd like them to see.
It was fascinating when you talked about, your dad going into Marines. I'm trying to think. I think the first Black Marines was World War II.
Yes.
Prior to that, the Marines were very discriminatory. Here's the other thing about many of the Black men and women who went and served. There were veteran benefits that, because of what we describe as redlining laws, for example, veterans being able to go in and to be able to get low interest loans, right? Government guaranteed loans. A lot of these Black men who served, and many of them, in wartime, didn't even have those benefits, even though they were eligible for those benefits. So the advocacy for those folks, and now we look at where, you do have benefits that men and women can get, but the traumatic impact of people being in war zones and coming back. And I think that probably has some impact then on substance abuse, people being unhoused, right? So to be able to advocate for that group, I think is important.
Yeah, one of the friends and partners of the NAACP is the National Association for Black Veterans, founded by Tom Wynn and Robert Croft and Willie Sims. And it was founded because Black folks weren't getting the kinds of percentages of benefits that would afford quality of life. So the struggle continues. Every generation, and that's why it's so important that young people understand this legacy, this sometimes behind the scenes legacy that they don't quite understand. I think one of the things that we're all celebrating is that Gloria's husband, our president, has effectuated a legal redress foundation, one of the very few in the country for an NAACP branch, because we really need to be empowered to affect policy, and we need to be able to have attorneys that we can have on board, because we get so many issues and concerns and complaints that we were asking Black attorneys predominantly to do pro bono, and it's an impossible task. So we're enlivened and excited about this foundation's actualization and its ability to raise its own
Because
funds.
at one point, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund,
That's
was-
national.
right,
Yeah.
but it separated
It did
and
separate.
it became its own entity. And so a lot of those legal issues in terms of petition and report, supporting different lawsuits that were out dealing with laws and changing laws and civil rights. But you're talking about something now that's more particular, more
To
individualized.
this Milwaukee branch.
Right.
Of the 2,000 branches in this country, we're probably unique in having this capacity to do legal redress. So it opens up a whole area of not only to develop policy and effectuate change that we want to see, but to start a streamline of young interns. And it's been called the Honorable Lord A. Barbie Foundation.
And
Yeah.
people may not know who Attorney Lloyd Barbie was. He was here in terms of, open housing, but the whole desegregation
Right.
of Milwaukee Public Schools.
Yes.
And he did the lawsuit that ended up doing the consent decree, right? That
Yes.
created what we, that's a fascinating thing, because during the active time of civil rights, Dr. King talked about, and others talked about integration, right?
Yes.
And the pushback is, because the argument that I know I'd make, and I'm sure my mom, who's also a member of the NAACP, would make, she would go, it's not that you want to necessarily live with white people. You just want a better quality of life. And what that meant was, Black people are segregated to the oldest housing stock, some of the poorest housing stock. And there were people who had money, but because of redlining, could not move into where their money would allow them to go. So then the great compromise in my mind became, well, we'll desegregate. So what did that mean? That meant that we're busing Black kids to white schools, and we're not really talking about integration, because it's more than just the kids going to school together. It's where you live, right?
Right.
Your
Open
education,
housing.
open housing,
Yeah.
because that's tied to education. People would argue, you just saw the dismal, I don't know if you've seen it, Milwaukee Policy Forum just did the dismal performance of schools in the city of Milwaukee. And it was
Underperforming. Yeah.
whoa. I mean,
Grossly. Yeah.
15% competency level. Now, I was surprised that 50% is where the state is on average. So that seemed to me be a very low number. I'm assuming that most kids are at reading level, let's say just taken outside of Milwaukee Public Schools. What we can find out is that only 50% in the state is at that. So when you start looking at 17%, 15%, that's, were you a teacher?
An administrator
You're administrator?
at MATC.
At MATC. So you understand the importance of
Oh.
those kids being prepared just to even get to MATC,
Absolutely.
right?
And I think the whole key is the preparedness.
Mhm.
And that's what we really have to look at. And I think the other part of it too is that we need to really look at post-secondary. And what does that mean? That means that if you pursue anything beyond a high school diploma, that's post-secondary. And we need to applaud our young people that earn different diplomas in electrical or plumbing, all of those different, and then those that go on for apprenticeship programs. We need to be applauding them as we do those that are seeking a 4-year degree. And so I think that the whole system needs to look at how do we best prepare students so that they can go on to post-secondary, beyond high school. And that's where, but when you're looking at 15% only of students that are achieving at grade level, that has to throw up a red flag.
And I think it's interesting because when you talked about those 5 key elements that Dr. King talked about
Absolutely.
was education. And if you're saying, but here's the other piece of it, the employment piece is important because when I think they were looking at 86% of MPS students are at or below poverty or considered poor or economically distressed. You know, the entire school district is eligible for free lunch.
Absolutely.
And that's based on, you know, the medium income that's in the schools. And there's that tie there. I understand that there were people, many folks, I grew up here, but folks who were in the South and they were able to get through those bad schools and go to college. But you shouldn't have to do that.
Oh, no.
You know, I think we have a public responsibility, or we have a societal responsibility to make sure that the entire citizenry, if that's correct, is educated. We benefit from an educated citizenry.
And I think the other thing that we have to be very careful of is really utilizing words, you know, not to dress up poverty. When we talk about food insecurity, you're talking about people that are starving. You know, it sounds good when you use certain terminologies, but I think we've got to get away from that and really look at it for what it is. And then look at the root causes of that. Why do we have poverty? So, and the NAACP has taken a look at those stats and will continue to take a look at those stats and then to bring them to the forefront.
The other thing is that in the years that Gloria and I were growing up, Black men predominantly had well-paying jobs.
Yes.
Was it
Absolutely.
like $35 an hour, Gloria, in those days?
And that's a lot of
It
money.
it was really.
There's some people in the
Yeah.
South would make it $35 a day.
And our girlfriends' fathers were at home predominantly. And so it's a very different world. Poverty is cruel. And we were talking about employment and jobs. We have a residential preference program for Black folks to have jobs in construction in this city at the 25% that has not been enforced. So when you look at all of the areas for opportunity for work, we get shortchanged. And that's why advocacy, knowledge of what's going on, when we sit down at these meetings, executive committee meetings, we're looking at all the issues, all the kinds of conversations we're having with municipalities and county officials and state officials, and collaborations with civil rights organizations and vets organizations. We're trying to have the best way forward. And it's taken everybody's energy and time and courage. Sharpton says, you know, some of us are smart, but ain't all of us courageous, you know.
Right.
So it's sacred work, and we need church folks, you know, we need educators, we need everybody who has some consciousness and some compassion and some empathy for what these young people are experiencing. My oldest son says, you don't want to know often how these children are living, the conditions in which they live.
Right.
You know, parents need support. I was working with an education initiative, and one of the students said to me, you all need to help our parents navigate MPS. We need our parents. It's nice to have other people help, but we need our parents to be able to help. So parents need training. A lot of these parents are young and haven't had the kind of training they need to be parents.
And I think if you're out, you know, it's Maslow, right? If I'm trying to deal with my immediate needs, these higher context things like, you know, the importance of education, I'm trying to make sure there's food on the table. You know, that rap song, I'm trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Right.
That's my mama. You know, that you're trying to do that. Now, keep the lights on, and you doing that. And people be surprised at the number of kids who are growing up with no electricity, sometimes no heat. You know, now you're supposed to go to school and then be a star academically. How can, if I'm hungry, you know, or I'm dealing with a traumatic situation at home that hasn't been addressed, you know, so it's a lot. I remember after George Floyd, I said, this is crazy that I'm doing the 60s in my 60s. You know, that we're still at the same point we were in the 60s. And look, and I would ask my mom. I said, "Mom, you think my mom will be 90 if the good Lord say so?" And
Wow.
at the end of the month, and I said, "Do you think you made progress?" She said, "Well, I made progress." She said, "But we haven't."
Yeah.
And so the thing that your dad shared with you in terms of that importance and understanding that we still got a long way to go.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Community. I'm sorry. Go on. No. You listen to Community Voice. We're up on the last break of the program. We'll be right back. Let me thank Miss Ella Dunbar. Let me thank Miss Gloria Pitchford Nicholas. And let me thank Miss Cleo Pruitt for being part of the program today. Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place. Oh, let me do this real quick. George, you were right. That's our cleanup. Larry Bandy and Keith Murphy. It was Larry Bandy and. Okay, here we go. We have to do a cleanup. We always want to. Ready? Okay, we good. All right. Don't panic. Don't panic. Panic at the disco. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. You've been. Oh my gosh. One of the greatest eras of music, by the way. Vern, Boston, and Larry Bandy. That's who Eric Vaughn replaced. So you're right, George. We're wrong. Sorry. Talk to everybody tomorrow. Peace.